Welcome to the San Pedro Library feature in the Poets in the Library series. It's here at the corner of San Pedro and Trumbull in the southeast quadrant of Albuquerque. We have two featured poets today. The first is Mickey Aronoff. Mickey Aronoff is so modest, she gave me a very sparse two-sentence bio, starting with simply, Mickey Aronoff's poetry has been published in the US and internationally. In truth, just in the last year, she has been published in so many publications, it would take at least 10 minutes to list them all. So I won't list them because I don't know which one she is the most proud of, but I'll give you the second sentence that she provided, which is, a pushcart nominee, she is also involved in advocacy for animals. And I know the last part of that sentence to be true because we met not through poetry, but at the dog park walking our rescue dogs together. Here's Mickey Aronoff.
Thank you, Mary, for inviting me. It's a splendid project. I camped out in libraries when I was young, and my mother was a fine arts librarian at a university, and I hung out with her there. I'm going to read 4 poems. Because this is a citywide project, I thought to choose poems that were published by 2 of our wonderful local presses. Dos Gatos Press, which is shepherded by Scott Wigerman and David Meishen, and Bosque, which is shepherded by Lynn and Linda Miller. This is a poem about a dog niece at the end of her life called The Continuous Bend of Light. Rosie lifts her long nose, slow licks your hand. How lucky is that? Tired dog, old like coal, candy pink tongue, soft as moss. Throw the dice, stand beside stone lions, circle right, not left. Rosie will still die. Her spent body, that lazy tongue, her easy heat. Be grateful. Place 3 oranges in a lacquered red bowl, an offer of dimpled skin. Gather your praise, your will, your heart, the cream of your soul. Weave this into a warmth. Thread in her fear of fans, her readiness for the trail, how she nestled in your husband's arms. Wrap Rosie in your relief. Bind it with your salt. Return her. Her heart will flame from an apple seed. I do hate gardening, but probably not this much. This poem is called Bindweed. Damned, drought-resistant invader creeps and climbs, grabs and chokes the beloved cactus I would pray over if I prayed. I glove up to save the old cow's tongues, curse and tear at each and every tendril within my grasp. Withhold love, like my mother's mother, whose stubborn tantrums and silences strangled and bound us to her curled fury. Possessed on a rampage, I swing, hack, and seethe with wild abandon at the spiraling vine, blood in my eyes and soul, startled by my own vengeance. The busybody neighbor tiptoes to the adobe wall, wide-eyed. How can you hate a plant? My third poem was written at the time of the horrible bloodshed at the El Paso Walmart. 22 lives lost needlessly. Neighborhood partitions. I am awkward when it suits me, shut out by your walls. All shucks and shuffle and shrink. What I prefer about this tactic is its scope. I can hunker like a boulder, all bluff and rubble and slope. What I fear about your flaunt is its veto. I toughen like sinew when it matters, faced by your flags, their versus and fiction. What I distrust about allegiance is the pledge. It's a value facing quivers that twist inside my gut to shift invisible. What I salute about your standard is some distance. I can fugue in a flash when it matters. Only moment I'll remember I am who. Somewhere in my skull is a clue, is a thought that I am not. Does it matter that I'm here, over there, and there, like a wood mouse hiding? I am water filling furrows when I have to. Feed you when I need you, as you need me. We are soil, we are tree, and we matter, you and me, to ourselves, to each other, in our shatter, in our sum, in drift and splash and sun, as rivers reaching. My love for research began in libraries and continues today on Google, where I learned that dreams about different radishes have different meanings. Go figure. This one is called Radish Dreams. Last night I dreamed a garden of cherry bells and bunny tails of swollen taproots, raffinine-laden, rat-tailed, wish-fulfilling radishes. Wake you from your dreams, radishes. Braised and raw, glazed and pickled radishes. I don't like radishes. Carved into roses and accordions, radishes. When I awoke, kind friends and a prosperous business stretched out at my feet. The night before, a dream of feasting on white icicle slaw, spicy shavings in a lemony sauce. Sure enough, the next morning, my feelings bled, wounded by a thoughtless friend who hawked his frame into the middle of my bed in morning's oblique light. The bounce threw the dogs to the floor, their old bones surely bruised, clouded eyes and calloused noses searching for cause. Looking back, it doesn't seem that bad, but then I was ruffled. Tonight I will dream of planting radishes, a trap crop of April cross and crimson giant, a scattering of radish ripper and China rose. Tomorrow I shall jettison grander longings. My heart's desires will root. I will keep in the cupboard only the simplest thirsts sealed in old jelly jars. Joy in the guise of a purple plum radish will scrape a chair up to my kitchen table. She will lean over, stroke my cheeks with the furry undersides of her green rosette cap, and declare that my heart's chambers will inflate with misty light. And joy will be right as radishes. Now go write your own poems.
Thank you, Mickey. The next featured poet is Mae Moffatt. Mae Moffatt has lived in New Mexico 50 years since arriving from the coast in 1970 with a car full of Vietnam vets. She's raised a family of 4 kids and many pets, earned a BA and MA in English at UNM, and after retiring from teaching, has written and published 5 books. 4 of her books won New Mexico Arizona Book Awards and New Mexico Women in Press, both locally and nationally. She taught 12 years in Albuquerque public schools teaching students to write about their lives and opinions, then 10 years of writing classes at CNM and at an online writing school for women. Many of her local students became prominent in the poetry and slam poetry scene. She has taught community classes for local venues and was co-host of Duke City Dime Stories, editor for a year of the Duke City Fix Sunday Poem, and co-edited The Rag for several years. She is currently at work on a new collection of poems and stories. Please welcome Mae Moffatt.
The first two poems I have are written during the pandemic, and the concern given to elders made me think about my elders. So this is called Remembering My Elders. I took my grandma Toddy from the city down the peninsula to Burlingame, to Mimi's house, my grandma Mimi, along the tall and elegant eucalyptus, the bay side of El Camino Royale, Mimi's cozy cottage across the street. Toddy couldn't quite get her legs out of my VW Bug, so I knelt like a shoe salesman, lifting each pretty foot to the pavement, gave her a hand up in the bright California sunshine. They went into the kitchen for coffee and gab while I watched my toddler son in the living room. Their smiles and hugs and big bosom selves, from whence I sprang, for whom I loved and thrived, hippie that I was, this meeting left a snapshot in my mind. They were overjoyed to see each other, kind to me for being the driver of the afternoon. All that driving they'd done for me, a bit of the favor returned. Up and down the Redwood Highway, me and my sis always in back for Mimi, but Toddy let us take turns up front. She often gave me one-on-one, soft and sweet grandma love, books and strawberries, until I got hives from the excess. Mimi took me to Mass and charged me with saving my parents' souls. At 7 or 8, I found the task misplaced and ill-advised, but there were donuts in the bargain, so I complied. I prayed my parents would return to the church and stop their cussing, drinking, and smoking ways. I liked the dust-covered blackberry thickets along the old 101, the logging trucks that minimized and terrified us, and back at home, their specialties. Mimi's applesauce cooled in aluminum ice trays in the freezer so we could have it sooner, and Toddy's Boston baked beans heavenly warming the kitchen, full of pork rinds and brown sugar. These two women were my bliss, my definition of divine. Toddy's paintings and Mimi's music, these women still give me strength and hope. Grandmas are the essence of cool, the women beyond the paddle or spoon, beyond the flat of the hand, and the long-gone husbands. Okay, the second one is from later in the pandemic during the California fires, the Oregon fires, the West Coast fires last summer. Something's burning and it's not my apple pie. Lightning strikes in the tinder dry hills, the forest in shambles, homes, campgrounds, and fishing holes. America, are you awake tonight? Can you stay awake for 80 nights? Sated with news and stories, can we participate? The horrors lived, the votes will be counted. You must choose truth and human rights to preserve the burnt-edged Constitution. The cooler's blowing noisy and moist in my house. A simplified life down to basics, renewables, recyclables. Last call for the night train to democracy. Fruitcakes cry for an oligarchy. Even the word smacks of rancid nuts. Something's burning, and it's not my golden, delicious pie. The killer virus is unempathetic. We still must walk the dog, find shelter from funnel clouds and hurricanes. Smoke in the air, dry rivers powdered with dust will not refill. There is no time to wrestle with fools. The orange sun sets in gray sky. Something is burning. Okay, the next poem I'm going to read is from my addiction book called Notes on Serenity, which is about the agony that parents go through and kids and families go through when they're suffering from addiction, anybody's addiction. And this book is an abecedarian, a form that a lot of poets are familiar with, and the whole book itself is in alphabetical order. This is called 0 Degrees of Certainty, and it's the next to last in the book. I tried to box it up, lid it, and screw tight, a baggie, a Ziploc, anything to keep some happiness close. Someone said, don't bank on this period of sobriety, as in no security guards, no mojos dangling, no prayer or religion has the power. Like the air around a firefly, no one owns it. Just kindness, that's it. Yesterday, you put a good tire on your daughter's car in time for her to get to work 3 hours away. You noticed 3 lug nuts missing, and she followed you to AutoZone. You, my son, took your time on time to help her. This is bliss, my bliss. The groceries I'd bought were on ice. We shopped so she'd have food because I decided I could. You decided on shoe shopping for work shoes as a way to be with her. At goodbyes in the 103-degree parking lot, her hugs and kisses, you waved to me with 2 fingers to your lips, a sharp look in your eyes as a thank you, and I love you, and for all this balm, I am blessed. And I'd like to read one more poem from my first book of poetry that my students put me up to when I was teaching at CNM, and this is called Poem from the Classroom, and it's from a CNM English class. Today I read your email about how many of your 7 children are sick, and you sick too. I, goddess-like, give you another 3 days to turn in your essay. You tell me I'm the only teacher you have met who cares about her students' education. I think you must be wrong about this, but wonder at my colleagues. Can they not count to 7? Did you not show them the scar from that fancy surgical birth control? Not likely. Did you not mention birthing 3 sets of twins? Only 1 set where both survived, or 2 sets where only 1 survived? I can't remember. That you had a tubal ligation, but some eggs are determined survivors. Did they not notice that with encouragement, your sentences learn to begin and end, your evidence gets commentary, and opinions are supported like children holding hands? You speak more languages than I can conceive, and everyone notes that you are happy. I hope your landlord fixed your heater. My only help was to suggest baking potatoes as soon as you got home. And you turned to me and said you'd be baking all night, cakes, bread, everything, smiling at the thought and at me as you walked me to my car, because late at night I have some fear of parking lots. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Mae. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to you the librarian here at the San Pedro Library, Leslie Fox.
Hi, I'm Leslie. I'm the Adult Services Librarian at San Pedro Library. I want to tell you a little bit about our special branch. This branch is the ultimate community library. It's only 7,000 square feet, but it serves 6 neighborhoods in the International District. It's a vibrant community, and a lot of neighbors walk to the library, come in and visit, pick up a newspaper and read for a while, work a puzzle, or get on the computer. We know a lot of our patrons by name. San Pedro Library was the 8th branch built in Albuquerque. It was built by architect John Reed in 1967. and received an award from the Albuquerque chapter of the American Institute of Architects for its mid-century modern design. The building was renovated in 1999 to be ADA compliant. Because we're close to Kirtland Air Force Base and the Veterans Hospital, we see a lot of retired vets as well as servicemen and women from all over the country. And of course, we have many patrons who grew up right in this neighborhood. The International District is a wonderfully diverse area with over 27 different languages spoken, including Chinese, German, Vietnamese, Hindi, French, Navajo, Korean, Russian, and Swahili. Other area attractions are Expo New Mexico, the African American Performing Arts Center, Talon Market, and many ethnic grocery stores, restaurants, and temples. San Pedro Library holds the main international collection. We also offer ukuleles, cake pans, and seed library. Some of our special programs we've had in the past are Adult Story Time, Magical Mystery Tour Book Group, Beading Club, and House History One-on-One. We've also had a comic book festival and coding club with robots. Building relationships with the community is important to us. We conduct outreach to the monthly Air Force Base Newcomers Fair, the annual International District Festival, and summer reading programs, school assemblies, to name a few. And a little trivia about our branch. In 2019, a very popular TV show was filmed here. You can find us on Better Call Saul, episode 6 of season 5. So please come on in and see San Pedro Library.
And now we're going to go indoors to hear the community poets who live around the San Pedro Library. The first to read today is Catherine Glenday. Catherine Glenday is a poet, a psychotherapist, and a disability activist. She lives in a pink Pueblo house in Albuquerque with Oz, the dog, and his 2 cats, Zeus and Diana. She has been writing short stories and poetry since 3rd grade. Please welcome Catherine Glenday.
A casual encounter in the community garden. We all bleed red. Rastafarian Jesus with dreads, wearing hippie tie-dye, tending to free-range herds. I want to go back to my native tribal roots, be a caballero like Eastern Oregon cowboys, and be like Gene Autry. Then be a lawyer, own my own home, and get my GED. He stood square-jawed, looking quite different than his stated goal. More like a Marine drill sergeant with his clenched fist and rigid posture. I was peeling garlic in the community garden with other women preparing lunch, not sure what to say, not wanting to destroy his dreams, which were clearly out of reach. I thought for a moment and asked, "What is your first step?" Only to be told I need to get my GED first and move out of the foster home. If only he knew how alike we were, me with my dreams of mattering too. It was clear he has Asperger's syndrome and did not really know what to say to reach out to make friends or how to reach out in any other way. And so Rastafarian hippie Jesus and I met amid the cold rain and wet soil, each lonely and poor. While I peeled garlic and he, lost in a world without social awareness, ranted on and on about dreams that will never come to be.
Thank you, Catherine. Our next reader is Norita Phils. Norita Phils has been a storyteller her whole life. She grew up in Minnesota, but considers herself a vagabond of sorts. Poetry has been her passion for over 75 years. And as she says, she feels the freest and truest to herself in that form. We are so glad she chose the Poets in the Library series as the place to debut her poetry. Please welcome Norita Phils.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad to be there with you all. I'm sorry for my voice, but I'm reading the introduction to a book I wrote called Growing Up in Minnesota Short Stories, and it's called The Storyteller. Some traditions need to be carefully massaged and groomed until they become ingrained in the heart. They are to be savored and rolled on the tongue of memory, like fine aged brandy graciously served in a crystal snifter to the members of the clan who remember parties past and look forward to parties future. So too, this storyteller bridges the memories of her clan, telling the stories to those who have heard them before and bringing them to those who with wide eyes hear them brand new and shining for the first time. And I have two other little short poems written at the Oregon coast where I lived for a number of years. First one is called Tides. From my window, I watch the tides wash the shoreline, leaving at each retreat trails of refuse and discard on the sand. Each new roll brings its own trail, but some of the old clings, stubborn, defying the natural order of the sea. So it is with me. Events wash over me, leaving trails of remembrance. Some cling, some defying the natural process of forgetting. A forcing of the will cannot erase them. Others, needing to be held, are too soon washed over by new experiences, leaving only vague, shadowy feelings that, in unguarded moments, drift into my mind. The other is called Oregon Midden. Midden is a garbage dump in archaeology. I sought her out, the earth goddess, in her secret place, where she still abides high on a bluff above the shore. I sought her out in the forgotten place, in the middens where her people heaped their cast out things. She is there guarding them still in reverence to the past. I burrowed my hands into the soft earth filled with broken shells and softened bones from meals long past, and feel her strength. She spoke to me in the ways of the ancient ones, her soft wisdom burrowing into my inner being. That which was cast away as worthless remains, but that which we valued above all else has long since rotted away. But we are an unbroken chain. We blend, we reappear, and blend again.
Oh, thank you, Norita. The next reader is Leslie Fox. Leslie Fox has an MFA in creative writing from UNM. While working on her degree in fiction, she wrote and read her poetry at RB Winning Coffee and other open mics around town. She is published in Earth Ships, a New Mecca poetry collection, Earth's Daughters, and Red, a Journal of the Arts. Please welcome Leslie Fox.
So this is called Taking Back Crow. I'm taking back Crow and Raven too. Feathers slick with blue, black shine. They don't belong to you. They never did. This crow is mine. Every spring I hear them, noisy murder in the towering elm, yammering, those clamoring college crows. They don't belong to you. This unkindness is mine. Raven on my roof, click, clack, click. Hop walks to the edge. Raven on my wall, beady-eyed spy, the magic, the mystery. It's not yours. It doesn't belong to you. I'm taking back my crow. And I forgot to say in the beginning that was about taking back my power, taking back my voice. And I felt like I should write a poem about the pandemic. So I wrote this yesterday, and I was just tweaking it about 20 minutes ago. So it's called Ode to My Mask. This is all I really want to say. You fit just right. And don't tug on my ears. You're the right color of sky blue. Not that it matters to me, but it's nice. It makes me think of summer days, lying in the grass, looking for animal shapes in the clouds. You're soft. You don't gap. But what I mostly love about you is the no fog flap covering my nose. You fit just right. For my last poem, I sometimes respond to other poets or writers whose work stirs me or disturbs me, and this is a response to Leslie Marmon Soko's book Almanac of the Dead. So after reading her book, I wrote this. This is, part fevered dream, part rewriting history and myth. Columbus meets the sirens. Gold sings from the islands. Monkeys swing from guava trees, howling a song of treasure, of rich cacao. Birds like rainbows call from canopy, drawing forth hungry men with sepia-toned charts and cages with chains. Lured by the god of greed, the sweet voice of gold and vanilla beans, from across the sea they come. The voice of jade, carved by blue flint, calling them across the waves. The voice of temples, streets of gold, hammered out as their stately ships are hammered on rocky shores, masts snapped in two, sails rent from end to end, as golden hands, bloodied, golden hands severed at the wrist, pull them under scarlet tinged, foaming waters. Thank you.
Thank you, Leslie. That's always brave when you read a poem you just wrote. I do that once in a while, but I know I'm jumping off a cliff when I do it. But that worked out just fine. All right, our next reader is Georgia Santa Maria. And Georgia Santa Maria is an Albuquerque native who grew up in the Southeast Heights in the 50s and 60s, when it was still largely windblown mesa. She still lives there today, though in a house that is a few miles west of her family homes on Georgia Street and Valencia. She is the author of 3 books: Lichen Kisses, poetry, Dousing, poetry, and the My Ami Hippie Mommy cookbook, stories, poems, photographs, and recipes, and co-author of Berlin Poems and Photographs with her friend Mae Moffatt. Please welcome Georgia Santa Maria.
Hi, I was trying to find a real Albuquerque-ish poem today, and looking through my files, I found this one that I'd forgotten that I'd written. And I spent the morning revising it too, so don't feel bad, Leslie. My mother's memories, Albuquerque, 1941. Let's go down to Okie Joe's and put a nickel in the pianola. You'll never know what time it is. The hands are off the clock. Okie Joe's pianola played that old black magic. And Willow, weep for me. And on the jukebox, the ink spots sang Me and My Shadow. Shiny-haired girls in pointy brassieres danced the jitterbug, hinting at possible sin. A downtown linotype printed out posters for traveling orchestras soon to arrive by train. They'll play the Alvarado Ballroom. Count Basie is here, and on the way is Harry James. Catch them eating breakfast at Lindy's or out on Central before the train whistle blows them away to further gigs along the schedule. That audacious Albuquerque high school girl will follow along the street, sidle up beside the drummer. Her boyfriend checks the clock above the breakfast counter, notices dawn about to break over the mountain, knows his dad will be furious for sure. In another year, he'll be called up for a sailor, shipped halfway around the world, learn how to be invisible on open beaches whose names are so obscure it would be a shame to die there. as his best friend will in a year or two. Roosevelt submits a third-time ballot. Everybody's scared. Everything is rationed but the music. Bing Crosby and the Cavaliers sing, "I'll be seeing you next year." Now, another 80 years and Okie Joe's is a 7-Eleven. The Alvarado gone since 67. So too gone are the boy and girl and the marvelous musicians. But the music's still alive on Bakelite, spins at 33 1/3 on their reconditioned record player for their great-grandchildren to hear. Pardon me, boys, is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? Track 29. I gotta be there on time.
Thank you. Well, geez, that revision worked just perfectly too. Well, you're both giving me strength to maybe try some new poetry myself when I perform next time.
Yeah.
Our final poet today is Cavia Esperanza. Cavia Esperanza is a 20-year-old queer immigrant and a social worker. They started writing poetry as a method of healing from trauma and has performed at Lobo Slams and Outspoken Slams. Please welcome Cavia Esperanza.
Thank you so much, Mary. A love letter and an apology. Perfect woman. Perfect woman. You knew you were perfect. Your perfection made them envious. Your knowledge of your perfection terrified them. Perfect woman. I loved you more than I did my sword. You are slightly more perfect than the blade that I worshipped. I remember the first time I taught you how to fight. Your ponytail made art in the air, your eyes as threatening as your fists as deadly as any blade. I remember the first time I taught you how to fight. Just as well as I do the smell of rain on dusty concrete, heavy dumbbells, splintered cudgels, rusty swords, beaten mats, scented incense, leaking roofs, disintegrated flip-flops, my hands on them, yours, gold medals, shiny trophies, misspelled certificates, our names on the PA system. The echo pierced my heart, knowing what would happen to you tonight. But I didn't do anything to protect you. Were you just another casualty to me, my love? Then how many casualties were there? You were just another casualty to me. You never forget your first love, they said. I carried mine in my purse when I was a girl. Now every injection of testosterone fills my veins with your tears. I used to dream of you. Now my therapist calls them nightmares. The next poem, Weakest Link. Weakest link. When I take my life, homeless, my dreams of going to college long buried alive beneath bootstraps and 4 jobs that couldn't afford a therapy session, use my death. Use my death, use it relentlessly and use it well. Let it serve the cause that my life couldn't. Turn my blood into gasoline and pour it over the pyre of workers' mass consciousness. Let the light absent in my eyes testify how commodifying human rights robbed me of my light. Talk about how I was too weak, spit on my grave, I left my comrades behind. Scream from the rooftops, the weak deserve to survive. Workers unite, don't give up the fight, because even the weakest of the weak deserve to survive.
Thank you, Cavia. I hope that wasn't really autobiographical, the last one, because we need you here. All right, if you would like to participate in future Poets in the Libraries, please contact me at ABQ Poet Laureate Program at gmail.com. That's ABQ Poet Laureate Program at gmail.com. And we have many libraries still to come, 15 more actually. So I'm sure there's a library somewhere near you that you can participate. Thank you so much for watching, and Support your local library and your local poets.